Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the question and answer and demo session today, May 27th, 2015. My name is Scott Olson. I'm Director of Marketing at Trade Ideas. The attendees will be muted today. You can ask questions in the question panel. We will have a longer question and answer session toward the end of the program today, so if anyone has questions, you can hold it for then, or go ahead and type them into the question panel, and I will try and answer as the presentation goes on. Your presenter today is Daniel Merkin, CEO of Trade Ideas and founder. I'm going to ask a quick poll of you guys first, though. I'm going to put a poll up, and just go ahead and answer this question. Are you an active Trade Ideas subscriber? So either you have an active subscription or you don't. This will help us kind of tailor some of the presentation, and Dan will know what to spend more time on. I'll leave this open for a little bit longer until we've got at least 80% of those in the room voting. Oh. Leave it open for just a bit longer. See if we can get a couple more votes in there. Oh, this is interesting. Usually we have about a 60-40 split. Today we have a majority of existing Trade Ideas subscribers in the room. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I've got one more question, and that's if you're an active subscriber, how long have you been a subscriber for? Now, what's interesting is the last time we did this, we were heavily weighted towards 1 to 6 months and over a year. Distribution slightly different this time, it looks like. I'll leave it open for a few more seconds and then share that. Okay, thanks, guys. So that's an interesting distribution today, I think. We've got quite a few new people, but we also have quite a few veterans that have been with us for a long time. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and turn this over to Dan Merkin, and I will be available to answer questions at the question panel. Thanks, guys.
Scott, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for taking their time out of the market, and any time that you guys allocate your attention to us, we really do appreciate it. Our biggest goal and challenge is to show you what you can do in the market, what kind of technology is available for you guys to take advantage of. And since there's so many people here who are customers of ours, I'm gonna just basically sort of dive into more or less some of the higher level things. And the reason we do these Q&A webinars is to really showcase some of the functionality that you may or may not have seen. So before I start, let me do the precursory disclaimer. So bear with me for 1 second. And also something else. So initially, my partner Brad Williams was going to be doing this webinar, and he still might jump in, and he actually is a much more skilled user than I am. I'm just for looks. Just kidding. But he may pop in here. We'll see. But either way, we're going to jump right to it. So it is very important for us to disclaim that Trade Ideas is not a registered investment advisor, and that none of the information that we are providing to you should be construed as investment advice. You should speak to a professional, licensed professional, if you're looking for specific investment advice tailored to you. Okay. And here we go. So this stuff a lot of you have already heard, but we've been in business for a very long time, but the market is just catching up to what we're doing. So we're starting to become more and more recognized as a leader in the space, because we help the most amount of people find the most interesting ideas. And you know, we are kind of like the technology that's beyond the guru, because our software watches everything, and somebody who's even a very good trader, and there are very many people who are good traders and trainers, there is still a limitation to what they can focus on. And the thing is, we want to make sure that you guys, our customers, are exposed to the best opportunities that are available. So this slide is just to let you know that there's a reason why you're here. A lot of people are starting to realize that this technology is very important. So we're today going to do a Trade Ideas Pro overview. We do that all the time, but whenever I go through it, there's usually little nits and bits and pieces that people aren't aware of. So I'm going to cover those, and because there's so many active customers, I'm also going to kind of jump into, again, some of the more detailed things, and I will also, of course, have a question and answer section. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to introduce you to our web-based product, which I think is really going to change the game in fintech. And I know that may sound like very boastful, but hopefully you'll see why. And of course, again, charts are coming, and we'll have a full question and answer session. So thank you, everybody. Quick summary about myself, so that you know who you're speaking to. I'm the CEO of Trade Ideas. I'm obviously the founder. But before we did Trade Ideas, my partners and I, and that includes our CTO and Scott Olson, our Director of Marketing, and almost everybody on the Trade Ideas team was on another team that was venture funded in the late 90s, early 2000s by a huge venture capital firm where we raised $50 million to compete in the hedge fund idea generation brokerage space. And that all happened because, again, they saw who I was, and I have this experience, trading. I was there at the right place at the right time. And again, this is not done to brag, but simply done to let you know that the people that build this technology have been doing it for a long time, and we are fortunate enough to succeed, and hopefully we can pass that information on to you. So again, this is nothing but an introduction, handshake, and let you know who it is that's on the other line. The other thing is that we are always very open to communicating with everybody, and I'm the CEO, but I still like to do the webinars, and I like to show people what is possible out there. So this is my E-Trade account, and again, the reason I show this is because there's just a lot of misconceptions in the market about what you can and cannot do, and we've kind of been almost conditioned to think that, what's a good return in the market? Oh, 10%. Oh, 7% is very good. But the truth is, there's just a lot of opportunity out there. And the question is, how do you get to it? And the answer is pretty simple. The only way to get to it is to be exposed to the stocks and the patterns that are exhibiting the kind of behavior that you can actually follow. So, first of all, this E-Trade account is roughly about $150,000. I keep it there all the time so that, well, of course, that's not everybody's account, but at least it can relate to somebody with an account with discretionary income. And what I'm trying to show you, here's a P&L where, you're making 16,000 realized in a day. That's 16%. It's possible. Do you do that every day? Absolutely not. And anybody who tells you that is just lying to you. But I do want to show you that it can be done. And if I can do it, so can you. So we're going to have some Trade Ideas pricing and deals that we're going to, and offers that we're going to be promoting to you. So this slide is really just to show you how much our products cost as an introduction and nothing more. When I take a break and Scott goes over this, he'll reiterate it. But I just wanted to give everybody kind of a high-level heads up of where we are in the ballpark so that the people who aren't members yet can kind of have an idea and take advantage. Okay, so I'm going to exit full screen mode, and I'm going to minimize the presentation, and we're going to jump right into Trade Ideas. So first of all, again, what is Trade Ideas doing, and what is it that you see? So Trade Ideas connects to the financial markets, to the exchange servers in real time through our data center in San Diego. And we are reading tick data. And as we read this tick data, our computers store all the information as it's coming in, And that way it can reference it as new information takes place. So trade 1 happens, our computers watch it, file it away. Trade 2 happens, and our computers watch that and say, okay, well, how did trade 2 compare to trade 1? And they do this all day long for every single stock that's out there. And the way we convey this information is through our channel bar. And our channel bar is a really cool innovation that we've had, which allows the end users to basically experience all the power of trade ideas, but really without having to mess around with configuring anything, because we know that, you know, if anybody here has worked with Adobe Photoshop or with Microsoft Word, you're very aware of the fact that it's not easy to set all of these things up. You know, there's a few people that know how to do it very well. By the way, Brad Williams is one of those people. But most people just touch the very, very high level of the functionality. So much like other good software vendors, we were challenging ourselves, well, how do we get our people to get better information, to get more out of our product? So what we did is we created this channel bar that basically has a lot of prefabricated templates. So a channel is a template that we create and we modify, and that's another beauty of it, is that we modify these channels all the time based on what's happening in the market. So these channels are preset templates that are composed of the windows. Now these windows right here that I'm moving over are not part of the channel. So what you will see is in terms of what's in the channel, it's everything to the left of it. So, for example, if we go to the aftermarket channel, and I was on the web-based version, so I'm going to relog myself in, and here we go. So here you have the aftermarket channel. Everything is happening in real time, and we split it up into a couple of different sections. So every window in Trade Ideas that has the letter A is an alert window. So an alert window is a window that has messages that come into it in real time based on your settings. So since a lot of you here are subscribers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. So here's an alert window. When I right-click and go to Configure, I can see that there's a bunch of settings. And if you see there's a little orange arrow, it tells you, hey, these are your current settings, and they're all right here. Now, each one of these settings should, in theory, have a tooltip if I was using the there it is. Okay, even my version came up with it. So each one of these has a tooltip. Okay, and then you can see that there's also filters, and the filters are the pastel colors with a minimum and a maximum. So I can also go to the tabs to see what's going on. So I want to quickly just jump through some of these tabs, and then again we'll keep moving. So I can go to the summary, and I can see, okay, I've got a running up alert, a running down alert, running up intermediate, running down intermediate, and here are my filters. Stocks where the price is between 1 and 10,000, stocks where the daily volume is at least 10,000 shares a day, and where this is happening after hours. Okay, so we have a clock filter that basically said, and this is used for AI and strategies. It also makes it possible for people to be very focused. So let's say you only have an hour to trade. You can set your trade ideas only to work in that hour. I mean, it's very simple. But again, a lot of functionality and abilities for you to do things. There's also columns. So all of these views are customizable. So in my columns tab, I can see that I have a column for time, type, symbol, the description of what's happening, the company name, position in range, and position in 20-day range. So let me move that over, and just so you can see. So here, as information it's coming through, VRX, Valet Pharmaceuticals, is running up 63 cents in less than a minute. Okay, and it's on the highs of the day. So I can, and on 20-day highs, because again, notice how it's all filled in. So the beauty about this, and I'm going to close this out and I'll bring it back up. So if I go to VRX, okay, what I will see is that this is simply a confirmation of what I already knew. Okay, so this is the daily high, and this also happens to be a 20-day high. But I already knew this because I have this data in front of me in the form of these graphical indicators. Same thing with AGIO. Okay, here it is. It's up 96 cents in less than a minute after hours. So this is right as it's happening right now. And in fact, you can kind of see it, you know, in this other window that I'll discuss. But the idea here is to get you guys, our customers, a little bit ahead of the pack. So when you're making a decision about AGIO or VR, or let's look at Broadcom, same thing, on highs everywhere. So I know that this thing is positive. Okay, wow. Let's imagine. So they must have really done well on their earnings or something. But look at this. Broadcom is just off the Richter, and again, and you could instantly see it. So the idea is that whatever is your strategy, and I'm not saying that I have any kind of post-market strategy, but what I am saying is that I'm using all of the tools to have a slight edge on my competition. Here, again, a stock that's much weaker but is going counter trend. UGA, see, is running up, and possibly a bad print also. $11.70 in 11 minutes and 50 seconds. Anyways, but if you look at where the stock is, you know, on lows, and here it is again. So all these alert windows do is they just display the information as it's coming in real time. So you have to kind of imagine that our software is sitting there listening for moves that are happening, and as they happen, it alerts you in real time. So the next window that I want to just touch over is the single stock information window. And what's awesome about this window is, again, all of this can be configured. And I just want to make sure all of you guys know that. So what I can do is I can right click, I can go to configure in this window, and I can, for example, say, well, what do I have in here? See all of the columns that are selected. I see some fundamental data, you know. And this is, again, very important because you're not always investing purely technically, right? So you can see the activity of the stock, rent, the stock twits relative social activity is fairly high. They've got 96 million in revenues and 85 million in cash, and they have quarterly revenue growth, which could possibly explain, you know, some of their price action, or at least today as it seems. So this is all, again, designed to make it very easy for you to do what it is that you normally do. So here, again, I'll go to WTI, okay, and this just tells you what it is. You know, and again, even though we know the name, back to UGA, and you can see some of the information for it. No quarterly earnings growth, current debt. Oh, well, I'm sorry, it's not a stock. It's a sorry about that. But let me move down to find something that actually is. Hold on one second. There you go, Broadcom. Okay, so here, Broadcom, 2,000 times its relative social activity. And you can see all the fundamental information. So the idea is that, and by the way, this was just done so that you can, in one click after hours, not only see the data, but also know what they do. The same information is available in both. So I could modify this view, and I can just have it like this if I wanted to change my view mode. So the thing is that there's tons of flexibility with trade ideas. You can make it do quite a lot of amazing things. So this window right next to you is called the compare count window. Let me bring it up in here. So this compare count window is a window that you also configure, and you set up bullish events that you want to track. In this case, it's post-market highs, compared to bearish events that you want to track. In this case, it's post-market lows. So you can that way kind of get to see, well, how is the post-market behaving? And you can see it happening in real time, like who's pulling and in which way. So this is a phenomenal tool to have as a tape reading tool for whatever it is that you like to watch. Because it really gives you a sense of how this, you know, imagine it's that tug of war. That's why we call it compare count. It's that beautiful tug of war between all the positive events and the negative events. And it lets you kind of visualize this data. And the best part about it is if you have it open all day, it really has a very solid trend built to it, so you can really get some insight. So the next window that I want to touch upon, and again, this is all part of the summary information, is the multi-strategy window. And what multi-strategy window is, I take this alert window and I configure it and I put it into the multi-strategy window. Not literally, but through a collaboration function. I would say right-click, collaborate, copy, and then I would go right-click, strategies, add a strategy, and collaborate. Now, I don't want to do this to the multi-strategy window, but you can see in this instance, what I have 1, 2, 3 after hours windows in here, and they're watching new post-market highs and post-market lows, but for specific sets of stocks. So, you can imagine that in one of our window, I can't watch stocks that are between $5 and $10 and stocks that are also between 70 and 150, because you can't filter it that way. But the multi-strategy window allows me to do that. So when I am working on various different setups, I can have 10 strategies in a multi-strategy windows, and they're very specific. In fact, as you can see here, as I'm demonstrating, our AI channel is in essence, or rather not in essence, in fact, a multi-strategy window. So what we've done is we basically created a window where we have a bunch of strategies and that we have tested, and we combine it, and this is the output. So basically a multi-strategy window is a strategy window of multiple alert windows. And our AI channel, for all those that are going to be involved with it because they have access to the odds maker, this is most likely what the first one will look like. Okay? It will have several channels. Some of them will be these, some of them will not. And these channels will be updated by our server as needed, most likely every night, just to make sure everything's working. So that's the composite of our windows. It's the multi-strategy window, our alert windows, our single stock information window, our channel bar. Of course, what you also have here is our charts. And we've been working on these, and these are our own charts. They're going to be available very soon. We're just working on some final things for them, not related to the chart functionality, but more related to how we permission everything. And we have a couple of cool features in this one. One of the things is that you can now send this picture to StockTwits. And here I can say, wow, what a move. And I've already integrated my two accounts. I hit send. Excuse me. And very shortly, once it's done, you can see that it's done it. And hopefully, if any of you follow StockTwits and Broadcom and myself, you will see that there was just a picture of Broadcom posted. So we're just making it very possible for everybody to share information quickly, access the best strategies quickly, and we feel we're one of the better platforms to do that. So what I'm going to do right now is because I'm starting to cough too, I'm going to take a quick break and let Scott talk to you guys about some of our promotions that we do for these webinars and just what's going on the Trade Ideas product and pricing. And then I will come back, and it looks like Brad Williams is here, so maybe he can help us as well with one of the things that he wanted to showcase. So Scott, do you want to take it away real quick?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our subscription and pricing models. This is probably going to be subject to change in a couple of months when we release charting. But right now, we do offer a month, and that's a trial month for someone that isn't ready to get into a recurring subscription for $99. And these are all our standard retail rates. The monthly is $75 per month. We have a program that I'll explain a little bit more momentarily called the Advantage Player. And this turns out to be our least expensive option if you're with us for over a year. And the way that payment works is there's a large payment up front of $236, but then it's only $43 a month after that moving on. So once you've been with us for over a year, that becomes even cheaper than being with us on our annual rate. We have a quarterly rate that's the same as the monthly, but it does not recur. We have a yearly rate that is 30% off of the monthly rate. So if you were paying $75 a month for a year, that would be $900. We offer the year for $628. The odds maker is a lifetime license. So once you purchase the odds maker, you have it forever. That is $1,100. And we do custom strategies for our clients at $250 each. If you can flip to the next slide there, Dan, for me. I want to just kind of show you really quick how these different plans work for you. So I already mentioned that the Advantage Player is the least expensive over a year, and here you can see how that works out. So at $75 a month for 6 months, if you're with us for under 6 months, that is the cheapest option. But once you've accrued a year, you're paying $900, and you should at least be on the yearly rate to save some money, or be on the Advantage Player plan, which by the time you've been with us for 2 years will have started to save you a little bit over the annual rate, and it will be just increasing from there the amount of savings. Now, our rates will be increasing once we release the charts in the optimized AI channel. The rates are to be determined. However, we're pretty certain that the monthly rate is going to go from $75 to $99 a month for the standard rate. So if you're already a subscriber to Trade Ideas, you will keep your normal rate. You will be grandfathered into the new services as long as you maintain your account. So now is a good time to get on at the $75 a month rate with the discounts that we're going to offer after the question and answer portion of the program. If you have any questions about that, just ask in the questions panel. Brad or Dan, you want to go ahead and continue with the present, if you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Scott. We're totally ready. Guys, so I have very good news. Brad Williams, who is our partner also, and is really one of the more, I would say, if not the most technically proficient user of Trade Ideas, is going to explain one of our coolest features, and then he and I will both banter back and forth a little bit, so you'll get a little dialogue just about what we do also with the web-based version of the product. And real quick before Brad jumps on, I'm going to show you guys that here is Trade Ideas on the web, and it now allows you to basically do everything that you were doing before in Trade Ideas Pro, but on an iPad, on a Mac, on any kind of device that you use. So what I'm going to do is let me log in real quick, just so everybody can see it. Okay, so here, again, it's the same kind of information that we saw before, but it's all within the browser. Okay, so you have the same you have the same channels. You can switch them. Whoops, sorry.
It's a new piece of software.
Yeah, no, well, it's also I have three browsers on it.
And then I'll follow back up with the web version and kind of show a few things related to that.
Yeah, okay, Brad, go ahead, take it away. Sorry about that, guys. I was fumbling around. Feel free. We're gonna make Brad the presenter.
Yeah, so you guys should be able to see my desktop right now. Dan did a great job earlier. I didn't get to hear it all, but did a great job of explaining all the different window types that exist within Trade Ideas. But I want to take a little bit of time and show you some interesting nuances that exist. I mean, this is such a in-depth platform, and there's so many features. It's incredibly feature-rich. This just happens to be one of them. And it's Dan showed you our alert window. It's really our flagship window, but typically that alert window is sorted in a chronological order. the most recent alert is always visible on the top, and it's listening for that next event to occur. And when it does, it appears right at the top. But we've also got a nice view mode, as we call it, inside of the alert window that allows us to manipulate this data a little differently. And as a result, what it does is it lets us, well, let me show you, because it really is pictures worth 1,000 words. So this is all set up here chronologically. I'm going to go ahead and close these windows, because right behind them I've got the same window, the same setup, just sorted in a different fashion. And all I did was I double-clicked on this number sign right here, which happens to be our count filter or count column, which lets you know how many times that particular alert triggered in a strategy window. So this is sitting in real time, and it's listening, but it's not done in chronological order over here. It's done in order of the count. So effectively what it's telling me is UAL, since I've turned this system on right now, has made more post-market highs than any other symbol that I have in my window. If I was to just duplicate this window, it'll start fresh. And again, it's a little bit late in the market, so there's not going to be a tremendous amount of activity. But the reason why I'm showing you this is because in one of our channels that we put together, let me bring it up here. Go to the channel bar, and I'm just going to select the surge channel. One of my favorite channels, because this is a channel that really does spot opportunities while they're happening, giving you a chance to participate in really large moves. But the window that I want to point out happens to be the strongest of the highs window. And the strongest of the highs window, you can see a little bit of the indenting here in the count. But this is sorted in a different way. And so this is sorted on the count. And if I was to run a history for just today, which I'll do, and it's going to run through to the beginning of the market and pull in all this data. And when it does, it's going to give me a ranking here, not chronologically, but based upon the count. And this is one of the windows, if you're watching at 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour into the market, this is where the cream rises to the top, and you end up seeing these symbols that have incredible follow-through power. So I want to point that out because it's a little nuance that exists in the software. If you right-click in the window and you go over to view mode, you can see that I've got the group and sort by selected. By default, this newest first is always checked. But when you go into the group and sort, this is where you can get creative with how we do the sorting. And you can keep the newest, keep the oldest, or keep all of them, and then determine which filter, or which column, rather, that you want to sort on, and then choose the direction. Is it going to be ascending or descending? So as you're looking at this window, please note it's not going to be given to you in chronological, but it is going to be showing you the stocks that are making the most new highs at that time of day. And a little trick, you could be watching this 30 minutes into the day, and maybe you want to kind of have it start fresh, and you can do that a couple different ways. You can just duplicate the window. It'll start fresh at that point. Or you can just right-click in here and select clear. It's in history mode, so it doesn't give me that option, but in real-time mode, I could select clear. So another thing that I want to talk about today, because I've had quite a bit of support requests on it, is really the ability to save the windows. We allow you to save these windows in really 3 different manners. You can save them locally to your hard drive. That's kind of the most standard and what people are aware of. We also, 13 years ago, when we started this company and this software, we had a technique to share our software called Collaborate. I'm not going to really talk about Collaborate as much today because it's an older way to do this sharing. What I really want to talk about is the saving to the cloud and the ability to retain all of your windows in your own cloud and be able to share those, not only with yourself, with your trading friends, but also with our support team at Trade Ideas. If you have any questions on a strategy that you put together, including a cloud link with your question to us really does help us dive right into the strategy. But let's do this. I'm going to take this strategy, this window right here, the strongest of the highs. Let's turn it back into real time. And I'm going to go ahead and save this to my cloud. And all you do is you right-click on the specific window that you want to save to the cloud, select this, and hit enter. And by default, it has a list of all the windows, the Trade Ideas windows that are open right now. And by default, because I clicked on that particular window, it selected it. And the cloud is pretty flexible. It really allows you to save a single window, like I'm going to do here. I could save a couple of windows. Maybe I just wanted to save 2 windows to it. Or I could save the entire layout, and then I could have that layout erase all of my other windows that aren't pinned. So a lot of flexibility with this particular feature. But let me do this. Let's start from scratch. Let's do the strongest of the highs. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And once you do that, you're presented with this, it's a QR code here that you may or may not want to do anything with, but your phone can scan that, and you can pop that strategy right into your phone pretty quickly. Or you can just hit OK and do nothing with it. You could tweet out or post your strategy on StockTwits. But this link right here is really a very powerful link, and you can always get back to it if you don't do anything right here. For instance, if I just hit OK and I forget to copy it, I can go back up to my toolbar and go to Load from Cloud. It's going to be the last window that I saved, so it's going to be this top one right here. I could select it again, and then I could share it. It's really going to bring back that window. And this link right here, it really does contain everything in that particular strongest of the highs window. It contains the sort order, the colors, the filters, just really everything. So what I want to do is I want to copy this link right here. I'm going to go ahead and select Copy All. Now it's in my clipboard, and I can do a variety of different things with it. Let me go ahead and bring up our web-based version of Trade Ideas. I can close the channel window here. I'm logged in with the green ball, and now let's go to Load from Cloud. Now, this is a different account. I'm really logged into a second account here, so I don't have the same cloud, but because I have that link in my clipboard, I can just go ahead and paste it right here and then select Load. The great thing about this is now this web version is really fantastic for the iPad or the iPhone or some mobile device. It's not great right now at this stage for configuring it, but you can do that on your computer, and once you do that, you can just blow it up in the window, and it gets really smart. All the columns and sizing will retain itself, and becomes a very easy way to look at this data remotely and on the go. And as Dan was doing, I'll just kind of finish off what he was showing you with respect to the web-based version. I mean, it's super powerful. It really is. All the functionality inside of TI Pro has been placed inside of this web version, well, with the exception of linking, and that is something that we're working on in development right now. But all the window types are there, and really all that functionality. And you have access to all the different window types. The channel bar, which is one of our latest enhancements to the software. But the channel bar works super nice on the iPad as well, and it allows you really to cycle through the different views that we've put together and have instant access to this data without actually having to configure it and manipulate it. So we're really super excited about this. I'm also going to do something that I shouldn't do, and I'm going to show you our integration of Trade Ideas inside of eSignal. So it's just a little bit of a teaser. So for the users that have eSignal as their charting and analytics platform, we're super happy and excited to be integrated inside of eSignal with this version that I was just showing you. And it has, like I said, all the functionality that's inside of TI Pro, but right here in eSignal with the ability to use the news and the great analytics that exist within eSignal. So that's just a little bit of teaser. We expect this to be released here in the next 30 days or so. All right, so Dan, that's about all that I had on my agenda, and I really do appreciate you stepping in for me.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Let me see if I can make myself the presenter again.
Okay, so Bill, a good question with respect to being able to run the web version and the application version at the same time. Well, we don't really allow you to run them simultaneously, but you can certainly toggle one off to load the other one. So you can have this loaded on a variety of different machines, and if you were to log off, this would just simply turn red, and once it turned red, you can just double-click it again to reignite that particular application or that browser version.
Okay, so everyone, I want you guys to kind of take a look at the screen. First of all, can everyone see my screen? Brad, are you seeing my screen? I want to make sure I'm showing the right.
Yeah, you're showing your screen.
Okay, so let's talk about for a second what the heck are we all really doing here? The only reason we care about the stock market, well, aside from the fact that people are employed by companies that seek financing and all that kind of stuff. But we, as speculators and those that are providing capital to these companies, we really care about success. Okay, success. And as you can imagine, the stock market is a very, very competitive place. But the reason I'm showing you, and here, let me move and show you what I did. So I have this strategy called gapped up and going. And it was a strategy that that everybody had asked about. And again, this one I just kind of created very simply, nothing too exciting happening. And it's really designed to show you which stocks have gapped up and then have continued to go higher. But the question is, well, what happens if you use this by itself? And here, again, I'm going to go to the configuration window real quick. So I'm going to go to summary, and you can see here, I'm looking for an opening range breakout of all the stocks where the price is between $0.50 and 5,000. I only use 5,000 because I'm avoiding Berkshire Hathaway. So that's, by the way, one of the things. If you want to like not skew so much, but if you want to really focus on specific price segments, create alert windows that separate them out. So I could split this kind of a window in maybe three, where I did one for very expensive stocks, possibly ones for high market cap, and then ones on the more speculative side. So in this particular case, this is a completely non-optimized strategy that is showing you this is the stock. It's gapped up at least 0.5%, and the stock is up at least 5 cents in the last minute, or 0.005%, and so basically just up something percentage-wise, and is up 0.5% on the close. So this gap was a good gap. Whatever it is that's happening in the gap was good. So the question though is, well, what can we do with this information? Okay, and that's what I'm going to show right now. So we run the odds maker, and the odds maker produces some results. So the odds maker is our tool that basically says, okay, you have an alert in trade ideas, so what would happen if any time trade ideas sees this alert and buys it? Now, let's first of all, again, make sure that we're not getting crazy. The idea here is that this type of testing is a much better and smarter way to test what you're trying to do, because it's called event-based testing. You're not testing stocks, you're testing a hypothesis based on the way something is behaving. Is this behavior scalable or predictable, or is this behavior noisy? Okay, so you can only answer that question if you basically say, well, I have this trading strategy where, for me, and here I am I'm on the West Coast, so I don't trade the open because it's too volatile, and I'm doing it manually, just like many of you people. So here's 15 minutes after, and then I don't usually like to add trades past 10 a.m. because, again, to me, there's just less risk, because the time it takes to really get the formation of the move going is, in the last 3 hours is not enough, in my opinion. So then I can ask the odds maker question. So if I exited this trade at 3 tomorrow, and then 3 days at the open, so a total of 4 days, with $1 stop, where would I be? So I already ran this, and I just want you guys to think about this for a minute. So in order to test this hypothesis, I ran through 15,083 trades over the course of the last, I believe it's 60 days. Okay, and we do this, so it's just like a quarter, just like a company reports its earnings quarterly. We report our statistics, or we test our statistics quarterly, because we think that's enough time for any kind of a trend that's technically based, and this is just the data that we have. And again, any piece of information in here you can go in and dissect in the calendar. So I'm just kind of letting you see that you can kind of see, well, what the heck happened here? Well, here it is. And obviously, the idea is that you wouldn't trade all of these. Of course you wouldn't, because there's no way in hell you're going to trade 15,000 times. But if you want to get an idea, and this goes back to learning, right? You know how in golf, Tiger Woods says, man, I do just hit thousands of balls every day to get the muscle memory. This is kind of the same thing. We do thousands of trades, more than anybody else in the history of the market, in a short amount of time, to be able to just try to come up with a statistic. Okay, so first, let's just talk about the market by itself. First thing that you should notice is that the market is very efficient. Okay, so when people tell you like, oh, here's this strategy and it works all the time, and you know, it's been working for 10 years, and I tested it on TradeStation on 10 years, there just is no such thing. Okay, there is no strategy that's worked for 10 years. Well, maybe I take it back. There was this really fancy hedge fund manager named Bernard Madoff. You might have heard of him. He had a strategy that worked, I think, for 20 years consistently. That's the only strategy that works consistently, is his. The reason that strategies don't work is because the market's so dynamic. It's constantly changing. You know, constantly moving around. So we also have to constantly be bobbing and weaving with it. So here we could tell that, you know, there's something interesting in here possibly, because you can see you've had a run like this, and a run like this, and a run like this, and certainly over the last little while, not doing so well. And this is one of the most important reasons for why we do not suggest anybody can really glean too much from just watching a stock chart and looking at it, like over here, for example. I'm going to pull this up real quick. So here, if I pull this up, and you realize, of course, I'm watching everything, so I'll get a couple of other symbols, so hopefully something a little bit more interesting. Okay, here's one. And here's RUGL and UTMD and all these other ones. Like, there's nothing you can really glean from looking at these charts that you think visually is meaningful. Okay? So, for example, here you can say to yourself, oh, look at here. This is a top. This is a top. Okay, this is a breakout. This is a resistance. Well, yes, visually that is happening right now. But the question is this behavior pattern something that you can trade? And when you're just looking at one stock, the answer is most likely no. So here, again, is the power of statistical analysis and what we're bringing to the table for all of our customers. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this strategy and I'm going to just give it a hint. Okay? I'm going to give it a hint of artificial intelligence, and we'll see what we can do with it. Okay? And this is really just a hint. And this is part of how we build the process. Okay? So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to modify this. And by the way, I don't really know if it's going to be better, because even AI cannot be, you can't just magically force it into something. So here it's going. We've eliminated a lot of losers, so the AI looks like it helped a little bit. But it's certainly still not at the point where we were like, okay, we're going to trade this. Okay? So we got maybe a little better because of the average winner, average loser loss, but we're still having some issues. I mean, look at this. Of course, you know, there's probably someone huge. You know, I'm kind of showing this to you guys to just show you the raw stuff, like what happens. Like YUG, I don't know what the hell it is, but this probably isn't real. I don't know if it was a stock split or something, or maybe it did go down. I don't remember. But the point is that with AI, we can start to figure out what's working, and when we find the thing that's working, then we continue to watch, and if it's consistent, then we add it to our robot. And this is the thing that you guys who are in the chat room, and that's going to be something else that I'm going to point out right now. So aside from a community where, aside from a product where everybody is engaging and gets information, Trade Ideas also has a very vibrant community. And our head trader and moderator and head support of the community is a gentleman named Barry Einerson, who is probably one of the better traders right now for private traders for retail. And he is at the forefront of all of our technology. He's the one that's managing the room. And there are so many good trades that are out there that, every day while markets open, there's at least 150 people in there just watching and making sure that things are working. And so this is a great way to kind of tiptoe in. If you don't know what's happening, this is where the community can help you. So in terms of, the presentation today, we really wanted to highlight the things that Brad said, like this kind of view mode in Trade Ideas alert windows that kind of really, right here, that kind of really keep you at the forefront of what's happening. And that's the beauty of working with this product, is that not only do you have all of the capabilities of just digging in and creating something that, let's say, is only interesting to you. For example, you could say fundamentals. Again, I'm just giving an example of how you can explore. So you can say fundamentals, and then you can look at quarterly revenue growth, and you can say, okay, I'm going to add a filter that there's at least minimum of 50% quarterly revenue growth. Then you can say, okay, I don't know what any of this stuff is. What are the default filters? And then I can just put in some minimum and maximums for price. So how about $1 to $200? And I can say, show me this stock that has 50% quarterly revenue growth when the relative volume is 2x. So you have to kind of figure that probably something interesting is going on. Well, then you can say, okay, to make it even more bullish, and this is what I call layering, and this is something that I suggest everybody here tries. So here now I can say, okay, it has to be up at least 1%. So it's got up at least 1%. It's trading on 2 times relative volume. It's got a 50% quarterly revenue growth between 1 and 200,000. Now I'm looking for a trigger. And because I know that Barry is here, I'm going to look for the opening range. Okay. Now, for the opening range, we have quite a bit of choices because, again, Trade Ideas has a bevy of different clients. You have people who are very active on the 1 minute scale. And then, of course, for opening ranges, you can do it a little bit broader. So here I'm going to say that make my trigger the 30-minute opening range breakout. That means that this stock that's already doing well has kind of built the base for 30 minutes of some kind and it's just penetrated through this base. So I'm going to add the alert, and I'm going to go like this. I'm going to call this my fundy opening range long. Okay. So what this means to me, and again, I made it where'd it go? I make myself laugh. Oh, guys, here it is. This is what everyone's been waiting for. Brad, do you see this? Unfortunately, Trade Ideas sometimes thinks that I present to Goldman Sachs, but my partner and I laugh about this because when we used to be presenting to like billionaire hedge fund managers and all this stuff, inevitably the software would always do something funky. And just as a disclaimer, so that you guys know, I am on a development version that has like the kitchen sink in it. So it's very often that some kind of funky stuff happens on my end. So here we go. We have our window. Now, Trade Ideas is one of these products where you're not confined to the market. So you probably know, but if you don't know, we have a history function that says, okay, well, show me what happened today. So every single window, you don't have to sit there and just, you know, be glued to it, say, oh man, I missed my setup, now I got to set it up tomorrow. You can be dinner is done, kids are asleep, wife's watching Real Housewives. I don't know whose house I'm describing right now, but could be somebody here.
Mine?
But here Brad, not yours. But here it is, and you've got all the stocks that you needed to see. So now that you like the flow, or at least you like the flow, here's the final kind of like test case. Now we're going to find out, well, what the heck can I do with it, right? So here's my time, and I'm going to first say, okay, if I bought this and I only wanted to hold it intraday, would this be a good buy? So I'm going to hit simulate buy. And here we go. And notice again, the computer is just showing you how fast. This is a learning process, right? So we just learned something over the course of 1,000 trades, and we learned that we better use some optimization. We better figure out something underneath. What this is basically telling you is, guys, you know, your eyes don't see everything that you think you see. Okay, so there's an optimization tab. Okay, so one of the first things that I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to go here, and I'm literally, again, showing you how I'm doing this without AI, but this is somewhat what our AI does itself. So the first thing that you will notice is this, in this optimization tab, we have price, time of day, symbol, and other filters. So when I'm looking at price, I mean, you do not have to be a genius to say, seems like the higher the prices go, the worse I'm doing. So guess what? I'm going to modify this window a little bit and say,
hey Dan, before you modify it, change it into like 10 intervals so you can break it into $10 price points and just give you a better.
Good point. Even more so. So, and by the way, thank you, Brad, and feel free to interject at any time. You know that my comedy routine is ad-libbed. Okay, so Brad was showing a good point. You have price level increments, so you can really get into the detail. So here I'm doing it by $10, but I mean you can even do it by 5. So you can really see, well, what's going on? Where's the strong spots? Where's the weak spots? Right? Well, first of all, you can really kind of see that there is kind of an interesting sweet spot between the 45 and the 55 area. So let's see. And again, our computers are actually kind of really cool because, and Brad, maybe you have a good way to explain this, but how do you explain the fact that when we rerun this, it's not the same exact trade set? Maybe a good way to explain
because it's running here in the system, it's running for 100, it's giving you 100 signals during the day. And if that strategy has more than 100 signals, then it's randomizing it.
That's right.
I don't know that that strategy is generating that many signals, though.
All right, so I'm sure. Well, that's a good point. I'm not sure. So let's go do what we said that we were going to do. Is we're going to take a look at this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, just based on a complete eyeballing, okay, I'm going to say 25 to 55. Okay. Hit OK. And then run again. And this, by the way, can also let us know if our hypothesis about making these adjustments are better or worse. Well, they've certainly improved some. So let's go look at and compare the summaries. Okay. So first of all, we eliminated a very large amount of trades. So we went from a 1.1. And Brad, while I'm doing this, describe the profit factor for everybody. It's your average.
Profit factor is really the sum total of all the winning trades over the sum total of all the losing trades. Ideally, we'd like to get into a profit factor of 2 or higher.
That's
below
right.
That, the risk reward doesn't measure up.
That's correct. But you can see that, again, just by using the optimization tab, I started to now, go into a situation of just, it's like you have better night vision. I think the other way is, you could have, by hand, you could have maybe figured it out. And that's like, imagine if you're driving and you're only using maps and you're kind of flipping the page, what we used to do back in the 80s and stuff, right? But this is kind of like your Google Navigate. And this is saying to you, turn on the 14th. Again, I'm kind of joking, but not really. That's what we do. And And, and it also lets you spot things that just seem, again, odd. So what's happening here? Oh, so this isn't odd at all. WUBA was really a big gap up, and actually this was on our AI when it happened in March. So no, that was all real. So this is how we do it. And I'm going to go back to this window, and then I'm going to do just a couple of other things. So first, okay, and by the way, just guys, all of your questions, they will be answered. So first of all, when I'm creating a strategy, okay, and this is just one of the questions I just glanced at, I do not have many alerts. What I do have is one alert. It can be for many symbols, and this is the thing that you have to understand, and you will if you are trained and you become a subscriber, we will explain all this to you. We are watching an event called the 30-minute opening range breakout for every stock that's between $55 and $25. That's up 1% with a quarterly revenue growth of 50% and a relative volume of 2. Okay, that's what we're watching. It's not so it's one alert, and this is how we filter the universe. Okay, and when we see it, it looks like this. So this alert just shows you this is the same alert, but different symbols come across when they meet the criteria. Okay, so just again a quick explanation to the people that are newer and just want to kind of understand. So alerts are the triggers; those are the signals, and filters are how we describe them. Like filters is how you limit the universe so that there's so that you're not just drinking from a fire hydrant. And by the way, it's not an intuitive thing, and so it's nothing that anybody should be ashamed of not knowing or knowing. It's something that's counterintuitive because nobody really teaches this, and since we invented this technology ourselves, we kind of have to go and explain it. So, and by the way, just again, to the tune of creating view modes and visuals that are comfortable for you. So remember that all this is customizable. So if I wanted to, for example, go to search and look up quarterly revenue growth, which is a column that we are, it's a filter that we have. But I can say show the columns. Okay, and now when I go back and we do the history, so now you can see, well, what was the total quarterly revenue growth for every single company that that you saw there? Only if that, again, was meaningful to you. I'm not saying that it is or isn't. I'm just saying that you have this flexibility, okay? And if you don't like our icons, you can always switch to text headers, okay? And they're all expandable, so you can see. So this is the quarterly revenue growth. And by the way, unfortunately, quarterly revenue growth is not statistically necessarily correlated to price movement, oddly enough. So it's not a gimme where just you say, oh, give me the guys that go 7,000% and you're going to find your holy grail. That does not exist. So going back to the odds maker and going back to real time, okay, remember, we only tested for 30 minutes. Well, what if we go for 60? Can we get more out of this investment? So these are the kind of hypotheticals that you can ask yourself. And what you're going to find out is, does longer hurt you or does it help you? Well, let's see. Okay, so in this case, holding it for an extra 30 minutes was not beneficial to us. Okay, and isn't that interesting where you can see that, oh, wow, 30 minutes was actually more optimum in terms of my capital, because once you've committed this capital for an hour, more volatility comes in there. Let's run it again and go for 2 hours. And look how simple it is. You're just scrolling away. 2 hours, simulated by. Maybe it's the second hour that needs to be there. Okay, and now let's compare that to the initial half hour. Nope. It's just not enough. So what's kind of cool about this is that look at how easily you can test questions, and it's in English. So what if I wanted to hold it to the close? So now I just go from minutes to at a time. So you can say, hey, I want to get out at when I have surgery or when I have an appointment or whatever it is you want to do. Okay? And you can say simulate buy. Okay? Again, unfortunately worse. Slightly. 1.62. And then you can now test it for next day. And these are the ways that you should be making your investment decisions. You should be looking at this information and you should be saying to yourself, wow, okay, should I be getting into this because, you know, Guru XYZ told me this was awesome, or should I just follow the best statistics? And sometimes, again, you can do both because there are many people out there in the financial sphere who do use our technology and are teaching with it. But hopefully, when you have access to it yourself, you really take it to another level. So let me close these. And
hey, Dan, before you close that,
I didn't close it.
Go to the optimization tab one more time.
Okay, sure.
And on that optimization tab, we kind of left a little bit early. There's that, you know, the other filters tab. And this is really what our AI computers are really crunching and, you know, going through all of the filters that exist within trade ideas to find these optimal values, just like we were finding the optimal time and the optimal price from which to trade. So this is where so much of the power of the odds maker really does lie.
Absolutely right, Brad. Thank you for pointing that out. So one of the reasons, and I think this also is a good dovetail into why we believe our product is the best on the market and why when you're not using it, you're really kind of selling yourself short. And that is that what Brad's showing you, all of these values, well, you can't get these values from other data vendors on a historic basis the exact same way that we have it here where you can plug it into an odd scenario, because again, that only exists in our database. So here we have these changes from the 15-minute 20-period percent change, okay, change from the 20-period 15-minute SMA, and you can plot that, you know, from 1 interval, 2, 3, 5, and our AI is basically taking all this data that what we're showing you we're doing visually, and it just programmatically do it, okay? So it's constantly going back and forth and back and forth, and there's nothing that we have to do manually, Aaron, that the computer already doesn't do. So when we are using the AI, it's programmatically doing all of what we call the merengue of optimization.
Hey, Dan, Aaron asked a good question here where he's wondering, I think what he's asking is how can you set this right from here, and why don't we add some stuff to be able to select it? So go ahead and like right-click, go into one of the selections and right-click where you can set the configuration right from here.
Absolutely. So, so Aaron, I apologize. I didn't get the question. I thought you were talking about just an improvement to the optimization itself through the user interface. But yes, Brad is absolutely right. So notice on each one of these filters, okay, there's values, and in this example, price interval of what am I looking at? Oh, so I'm just looking at price. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know that you need to select anything good. Just show how that menu exists.
Yeah. So I right-click, and I say set strategy min value 51, set strategy max value of 50, or do both, or edit price strategy. So from any one of these things, and Brad, that's a great example. You can start editing, and you don't have to actually go back and right-click the way I was changing it. That's partly bad habit, because I'm so old and I've been doing this for so many years that you get used to something. Even Barry, who again has been with us for years and is one. I would say Brad's probably #1, but Barry's #2 in trade ideas because Barry writes. He's an engineer and he writes formulas, and Brad writes formulas. Again, I'm primarily for looks. But some of these things are so hidden that that again, because the product, we've been around for 13 years, so we built up this incredible amount of functionality. So yes, right-clicking in here allows you to change that.
So I also, Aaron, that is a good idea. I know what you want. You want it a little more sophisticated. It's something you can do with a custom formula. Maybe it's something that we'll allow later on, but
yeah. And guys, remember, we really appreciate this feedback too. It's very important because we want to have the kind of product where great customer insights go right to the front, and we're constantly, pulling back and forth between adding functionality and working on huge projects like that e-signal project that Brad teased. But at the end of the day, what I really quickly want to summarize with is we crunch an immense amount of data on our database, something that your computers can't do by hand. And we come up with, well, what is really happening to this situation? And then we distill that to something that's a little bit more palatable statistically, and by a little bit I mean a lot. So what I'm going to do here is this. I'm going to kind of finish up by answering questions, or Brad, maybe you can answer questions, and I'll just finish up, both of us, with saying this. So I am going to fully optimize this Fundy opening range long, and for every one of our customers who's here who has an odds maker, you just let me know, and I will send an email to info or to dan@trade-ideas.com, and I will basically send you a cloud link for the fully optimized version of this strategy. And yes, Barry, that includes you as well. Brad?
Yeah, well, I only see one other question that's gone unanswered, and if we did miss it, certainly type it in again, please. But Guy asks about the new high filtered alert, and I have to say that's more of a legacy alert because we've added functionality that mitigates it. But essentially, what it does is it's a new high alert that will only trigger at most once a minute unless there's some statistically significant move that should cause it to alert again. But we've added functionality in the alert window with our view mode, our don't repeat, that allows you to specify whether you want an alert not to repeat for a minute or 5 minutes or 15 or the day. So that it makes it so that it's not necessary to use it. But if you're finding that you're getting too much noise and you don't like to see every single instance of a stock triggering its new high, then you can either use that filtered alert or you can use the view mode for don't repeat.
Let me, you know what I'm going to do, Brad? I think it's good enough of a question where we can just do a quick example. So I'm going to open up in a window, and I'm going to search for the alerts, and I'm going to select new high, and I'm going to add it and call it new high. Oh, dang it, did I not start from scratch? Okay, search, new high, add alert. So here's my new high alert. I'm going to call this new high. It's coming. Remember, thanks to your Goldman Sachs. Come on, little horsey.
We're going to need to kind of move along a little bit, though, Dan.
Okay. So here's the new high, and I'm going to duplicate this. Yeah. You know what, guys? Sorry. It looks like my machine is just getting a little bit tired because, again, I run a different version. So if you want, I'll just simply explain it afterwards. Okay. All right. Let's put it back on our presentation. Scott, do you want to take over for the final part of the presentation?
Yeah, now that I'm unmuted. Let's go ahead and do that.
So which slides?
Well, you can go ahead and start on the slide 9. I explained the way our prices are structured a little bit earlier, and that was to kind of give you an idea of what might be the correct subscription level for you. As a way to thank everyone for attending our webinars and participating, I have a product code that is QAWEB27, QA Web 27, and that's good for 30% off of our monthly, yearly, or Advantage Player subscriptions, or it will give you 40% off the lifetime oddsmaker license. So it brings the oddsmaker down to $660 from $1,100. And remember, the oddsmaker is going to be necessary for our upcoming AI channel. So if you're planning on using the AI channel when that's launched, you can get into the oddsmaker for a good rate and lock that in now. Advantage Player, the discount brings the initial payment down to $165.20, or our yearly payment down to $439.60, or the first month of our monthly subscription to $52.50 for the first month. Now that code, the QA Web 27, expires this Friday, so do use it before the end of business on Friday. And if you want to switch to the next slide there, Dan, for those of you who understand what a great value Trade Ideas is, here's the best deal we have, the best offer, and that is a full year of Trade Ideas for $628. A lifetime odds maker is $1,100, and an optimized strategy, which we charge $250 for. All of that for only $899. So that gets you the full year, lifetime odds maker, an optimized strategy. You need to go to that bit.ly link to get to the page to click through to buy it. That's bit.ly/899saver, and that's saver all in caps. It's under $3 a day. I know pretty much all of us spend more than that on coffee every day, so there's very little excuse not to get in at that kind of price. And that locks you in at that price rate of renewing at $628 a year before we raise our rates with the launch of charting and the launch of the AI channel. You'll be looking at probably closer to a retail $850 a year price than the $628. So we will offer packages and offers in the future, but the prices are going to go up. So if you go to bit.ly/899saver, you can get in on this now before we increase our rates. And of course, feel free to contact us at info@tradeideas.com. We're very easy to get a hold of. Follow Dan on Twitter at TradeIdeas1. We also have a Trade Ideas account too. Follow us on Facebook and like us there, Trade Ideas Pro on Facebook. We often announce some new things there. Give us a call, shoot us an email. Thanks everyone for joining us. You'll get an email in a couple of hours with the product code and the link to the $899 deal again. And thanks everyone.
Scott, one more question I want to answer before you cut it off.
Sure.
And I just wanted to address Bill's question here real quick because it's such a great question. And Bill wanted to know the difference between an alert and a strategy. And the best way I can explain that to you, Bill, is you saw we had that new high alert. That's an alert. But a strategy is really adding other filters to it to paint the picture of what you're looking at, and that could be adding price filters to it, adding volume filters to it, relative volume filters to it, maybe where it is in its moving average, little things like that. And once you add all that together, then you have a strategy, and that strategy is going to deliver that signal to the window anytime all that criteria comes together and meets up. So that's really the difference. And you build a strategy with alerts and filters, and the combination of those two come together to make that strategy. So I hope that helped, but certainly all new subscribers should sign up for our training session. We do a one-on-one training session, a remote session where we connect your desktop and walk you through the product. So that's how we found it really best to help everybody.
Yes, guys. Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Bye.
See you soon.